Before we get started, let me tell you what this video is not. This is not me getting on my soapbox to slam Planned Parenthood, nor is this an attempt to shift the conversation away from the protests that are going on right now. And most importantly, this is not me forcing my religious beliefs down your throat. This is just me talking about a very powerful and moving film that I just saw a few days ago. So please, keep the comments civil, and let's talk about this movie. Unplanned. So Unplanned is a 2019 Christian movie based on the life of Abby Johnson, but I think a little background is in order. So this story focuses on the life of Abby Johnson, one of the youngest Planned Parenthood directors in history. And she not only loved her job, but she was really good at it. She found purpose and fulfillment in giving what she believed were the best medical options available for young girls in crisis. Until one day she saw something that completely changed her life and opened her eyes to the reality of Planned Parenthood and transformed her into one of the most ardent pro-life advocates in America. In fact, it's no surprise that she was directly involved in the making of this movie to make sure everything was accurately represented. Now, I put Christian movie in quotations because while it is directed and produced by Christian filmmakers and definitely has a Christian message, 90% of this movie doesn't play out like your typical pure flicks film. This movie does a really good job at showing the good and bad side of both sides. Now, I guarantee if this was handled by any other Christian team, they would have painted all Planned Parenthood workers as these evil monsters that get a sick satisfaction out of killing babies, and paint all Christians as heroes fighting for the right to life. Not so much in this case. Because this story is told from Abby Johnson's perspective, who for the majority of this movie loves her life at Planned Parenthood, you get a peek behind the curtain at some very revealing insights that if you're pro-life or pro-choice, it'll give you some things to think about. Because the people who work at Planned Parenthood aren't monsters. They're just normal people like us trying to do a job that they find fulfillment in. And even while the things they do in the operating rooms are disgusting, these secretaries and volunteers are just regular people. And on the Christian side of things, not all Christians are depicted as saints. In fact, there's several instances where Christians are depicted as hateful, vindictive, and in some ways just as cruel and manipulative as the people inside the building. And I found that refreshing because a lot of Christian movies are scared to depict the darker side of Christianity. But it also shows the loving, helpful, understanding side that I believe all Christians were meant to be. So if this story is truly fair and balanced and gives equal representation on both sides, where's the message? Well, the message isn't subtle. This is clearly a pro-life movie. In fact, this movie opens with a recreation of a, how do I say this without YouTube shutting me down, terminated pregnancy? And that scene is very hard to watch. In fact, this scene alone is why the MPAA gave it a R rating. You see everything. It's an ultrasound guided procedure so the doctor can see what he's doing. And for the first time in Abby Johnson's life, she sees what goes down in that operating room. And it's not exactly the procedure itself that's hard to watch. It's watching the image on the ultrasound and seeing the unborn child wiggle and try to avoid the needle coming at it. And that scene not only breaks the audience's heart, but also shatters Abby's confidence in the billion-dollar industry she's been a part of. And while you can see this scene as a directors and writers trying to make this procedure as horrific as possible by adding in these small details, every one of those details is exactly as Abby Johnson herself describes that day. If you really want to know how much of this movie is true, Abby Johnson herself has gone on countless podcasts and YouTube channels to tell her side of the story. And if I could save you the time, this movie follows it to a T. Even some of the more outlandish things, like the doctor saying, "Beam me up, Scotty," right before he flicks the switch, is a direct quote from what happened that day. So yeah, that scene's very hard to watch. And if you can get past that scene, you can get through the rest of the movie. And the rest of the movie plays out pretty well. It flashes back to when Abby was a young woman first starting out. The movie does a good job at not vilifying or criticizing her decisions. She made these decisions because she believed it was the best course of action for her life, and she really wanted to help young girls. And even though you may not agree with that, that's what happened, and that's what is on screen. But as the film continues and the years go on, Abby becomes more and more disillusioned with Planned Parenthood's mission statement of making abortions rare. In fact, the truth is just the opposite. And that's when the movie catches up to that opening scene where she breaks down and decides to quit Planned Parenthood. And this is the part of the movie I have mixed feelings on, because when the timeline catches up to that opening scene, they thankfully don't show all the details again, because it's still fresh in our minds from the beginning. Instead, they show what happens outside, where a couple of pro-life activists that have become Abby's friends are praying over barrels of waste. I think you can figure out what's in those barrels. And the reason I have mixed feelings on this scene is because this is where it starts to feel like a PureFlix movie, where you have the good Christians fervently praying to God, while at the same time, Abby has had her eyes opened to the horrors of Planned Parenthood. And from a filmmaking perspective, it's a little too on the nose that the exact moment they're praying is the exact moment where Abby decides to leave Planned Parenthood. But as a Christian, I 100% believe in the power of prayer and that God can do crazy things like that. But looking at it as a movie, it's a little cheesy compared to the very serious and mature tone that the rest of the movie has had. And we should probably talk about the way this movie wraps up. So the third act of this movie is Abby leaving Planned Parenthood and then being sued by Planned Parenthood because she knows too much and they're scared that she'll reveal too many things that happen behind closed doors in the organization. And there's a little bit of courtroom drama. They hire this hilarious defense lawyer, and he's the most entertaining thing in this movie because he's the only person in this movie that has zero fear of the Planned Parenthood organization. He just goes in there guns blazing and wins the court case. And that's pretty much the whole movie. So yeah, while this movie clearly has an axe to grind against Planned Parenthood, it does a lot more than that. It does a great job at informing the audience exactly what goes down at Planned Parenthood, not just involving the operations. It shows the full range of Planned Parenthood's operation, from what the lowly volunteers are told what to do and how to treat their customers, and all the way to upper management at the corporate level. It shows how they work. So regardless, if you're pro-life or pro-choice, give this movie a watch, because whenever you can get a first-hand account at something this controversial, it's gotta be worth something. And personally, I believe that this movie is a very important tool in educating people about the realities of Planned Parenthood so that people can make well-informed, safe decisions with what they do with their body. So thanks for watching my video. This one was a lot harder to make because it's not exactly a nerdy topic, but it's something that I felt was really important to talk about. Again, I just watched this movie the other day and felt all kinds of emotions, and I needed to say something on camera. So remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more content, and hit the notification bell to be notified every time I upload a video. And remember to keep the comments civil. And as always, I'm Colby. This was my nerdy talk, and I'll see you in the next video.